and scoop up the mud, mix it with straw, and pray. And when your prayer is really sincere, we will make our forms manifest. And all of these goddesses came out of the creek. They all came out of the river, and they were all made out of mud and straw. And this lady is Mahakali. She has 10 heads and 10 hands and 10 feet. I'm not going to raise her skirt and show you, but she does. Take my word for it. She has 10 heads because she sees in 10 directions at the same time. And she has 10 arms because she has 5 organs of action and 5 organs of knowledge. And she has 10 feet because she dances like crazy. Everything you see is the dance of Mother Nature dancing on the stage of consciousness. And that's why you often see Shiva laying down. He's inert. He's consciousness. All he does is see. He's the witness of the dance of nature. And Kali is Mother Nature, and she dances on the stage of consciousness. Every perception is a perception of Kali. Kal actually means darkness, and Kali takes away the darkness, which is why she's dark. And Kal means time, and she who is beyond time is the cause of time. She manifested to take away the energy from too much and too little and put them into balance. Because when you don't have enough, when you have too little, you got to get up and get some more. You know, get a job, get an education, get some money, get a paid grocer, get some. And if you've got too much, you can't sit still. You got to take out the garbage. You got to watch your investments. There's my investor. You've got so much to do. So Kali tells us what's the right amount. What's the balance between too much and too little? She takes away that darkness. And the only way you can know how much you need is if you know for what. I mean, how much do you need for what purpose? And in Sanskrit, Lakshya means a goal. And Lakshmi is the ultimate goal. She's the goddess of wealth because your goal is what you value. Your objective, your purpose is your value. And your value is your wealth. And it's in this sense that Lakshmi is the goddess of wealth, the goddess of goals, of objectives, of purposes, of values. And she tells us, how do you define your life? What's your purpose in life? And then you know how much you need. Now she has 18 arms, or she's shown with 18 arms here. She actually has 1,000 arms, but that's really difficult to make from mud from the river. I promise you, even 18 arms is a lot, but she's a really handy lady to have around the ashram. Well, can you imagine if you had 18 arms? What would you be doing? You could do it all. You could hold the light and cut at the same time. Yes, absolutely. You could do so much. So she's shown with, the goal is to have 1,000 arms. But at least for this worship, we'll worship her with 18 arms. And she manifested to take away the great ego. The Mahan Isha Ashura, the great ruler of duality, the Mahishashura. He's often depicted as a buffalo, because that's the most stubborn animal in India. You know, if you look at the highways of India, you'll see there's a hierarchy that goes on. You know, the first come the tanker trucks. Everybody gets out of the way for the tanker trucks. And then come the ambassadors. Nobody wants to get hit by an ambassador. They're just made in the 40s and 50s, and they won't break no matter what you do. I mean, you can ram your Toyota into it, it'll just crumble. And then come the little Marutis, and then the cyclewallas, and then the pedestrians. But everyone moves over for the Mahish, for the buffalo. The buffalo will not get out of the road for anybody. And he's the most stubborn beast of all the beasts in all of India. And that's why he is the great ego. the Mahan Isha Ashura, the great ruler of duality. So Lakshmi gives us our goal, and Kali will tell us how much do we need to accomplish that goal. This is Saraswati, and she manifested to take away the energy from two terrible demons. One's name is self-conceit, and the other one's name is self-deprecation. And self-deprecation says, oh, you dummy, you blew it again, you'll never get it right. Why did you say that? Why did you do that? Well, you did it wrong. And self-conceit says, wow, wasn't that a good one? And both of them relate to the evil eye. So these three girls together, they take away, they give us our goals, they take away self-conceit and self-deprecation, tell us how much do we need to accomplish our purpose, and we have to determine what is that purpose. We determined it as yoga, as union, the perfection of yoga, the perfection of union, to go inside. Now there are four kinds of union: Gyan, Bhakti, and Karma. They are spoken of as four different kinds of yogas, but actually there's only one union. In union, they are the four constituent elements of the one union. That is, without devotion, what action can you perform? Without meditation, without paying attention, how can you know what you're doing? How can you do anything without paying attention to it? That's meditation. How much attention do we pay? Action is karma. That's what we do. Gyan is wisdom. What do we know? What knowledge do we do? And bhakti is devotion. What causes you? What inspires you? What compels you to pay attention? You fall in love. You get an inspiration. And you take that inspiration, you cultivate that knowledge, you put it into practice, you define your goals in life, and pretty soon you achieve success. And that's our goal, is to achieve that success of union. To unite Dhyan, Bhakti, and Karma. That's meditation and action and devotion and wisdom. They have to unite. And in most of the things that we do in life, in the way there's a unity and a harmony. And so there's a harmony and a unity. There are constituent aspects of each other. They're inseparable. We just talk of them as being separate so we can understand what are the constituent elements. In the same way, we have three elements called mantra, yantra, and tantra. Mantrayate iti mantra, that which takes away your mind. You want to blow your mind, use the mantra. You can lose your mind very quickly if you use the mantra. Yantra actually translates as tool. It's porno. It's the tool. And we call it the understanding, the tool which gives us the understanding. How do you use the map? You've defined the goal, you've created a map. You want to get to what are the constituent elements, what are the actions that must be performed in order to reach that goal. That's what the yantra is. And the tantra actually means to weave, like the warp and the hoof of a cloth. You weave together all the various elements, all the various aspects of your spiritual discipline, what we call sadhana. You sit in a certain posture, like a yogi. You breathe in a certain way, like a yogi. You chant mantras in a certain way. You understand their meanings. You try to conform your behavior to the suggestions that they're making. And pretty soon, you become the individual being described in the scripture. And the scriptures were passed down from guru to disciple for thousands of years, saying, become like this. So they define an ideal of behavior where you stay in yoga, in union, in harmony, in balance, in the center, all the time. And that's what the study of your yantras will do. We had a class make this yantra for us. Some great souls came and made this yantra, and this is the yantra of our worship. It's called the Sri Yantra, but actually Sri Yantra is a generic term. Sri means respected, of course. It also means Lakshmi. It also means the highest wealth. Sha is Shanti, peace. Ra is your mind. E is your heart. And Anuswar, the M at the end with a little dot above it. It's hard to do in English, but it means perfect. Shrim, the wealth, that's Lakshmi's bija. And her wealth is the highest respect. When you listen, when you pay attention, when you have peace in your mind and in your heart, the perfection of that attention is Shrim. And this is a Sri Yantra, this is the Chandi Yantra. And it has the Chandi mantra along with the Chandi Yantra. Any Sri Yantra, any yantra, can you see it over here? Let's turn it around. Hey, I'll just hold it here. It's much nicer to look at than me. If you have 6 angles and 8 petals, and a triangle in the middle and 4 doors is a Sri Yantra. Now, there's the Meru Sri Yantra that has 36 triangles which are interlocking, and there are so many variations of it. Everyone takes initiation in the yantra, just like they take initiation in a mantra, just like they take initiation in a practice in the tantra. So we become, I know you're studying many yantras, and eventually you will gravitate to one. And I know you're studying many mantras, and eventually you will have one Mool mantra. Our Mool mantra is the Navarna mantra, the Akshar, the 9-lettered mantra of the Chandi. It's Om Aing Ring Klim Chamundai Viche. Has a great meaning. I don't think I can tell you in a paragraph. I've written so many books about it. But let's say Om is the infinite beyond conception. Aim is creation. Rim is preservation, transformation. It's the preservation, the circumstance of existence. Rim, what is? And Klim is what it's going to become. So you've got creation, preservation, transformation, Cha, moving, Munda in the mind, in the head, in the paradigm of reality. Vich is the samvit, all that can be known. Che is Chaitanya, known by consciousness. Consciousness is aware of all that could be known as the continual dance of Aim, Ring, Klim. The 3 girls dancing. And that's the Mool mantra of the Chandi. And that's the Mool mantra of our temple. Our temple is dedicated to these goddesses. And our sadhana, our lives, are dedicated to these goddesses. And that's what it means. If you relate with the changes and think I am changing, then you are constantly in transition. When you reach the center, you say, I am the consciousness which is witnessing the changes of nature. Nature is changing because that's her nature. And if I ask her not to change, she's probably not going to listen to me because that's her nature. She's going to behave according to her nature because that's her nature. So if I can witness without judgment, without saying this is bad or this is good, without qualification, if I can witness the changes of nature without too much or without too little, I get to stay in the center. And I know some are winning trades and some are losing trades, and I can accept that. This is the meaning of the Moon Mantra of Chandi. We just sang the story of how we put too much and too little into balance. Cut down self-deprecation and self-conceit with the sword of wisdom. And then surrendered the great ego. Got rid of that great ego. And now we get to stay in the center. So we use the yantra, the tool, as a distinctive part of our worship. It plays a very important role. We put the yantra on our chest because every goddess and every god sits on the yantra. And especially you've seen Shiva dancing on the chest of Kali. Well, if we put this yantra on our chest, then Shiva has a place to stand. He can dance on our heart. We put the yantra in the center of our worship. And then we cover it with flowers. And we draw another yantra that points to this yantra, which points to this yantra. We put that yantra in the Hau and Kun, where the fire is. And then we invoke the fire to sit on the yantra. Every god and every goddess sits on the yantra. Our yantra is the Chandi Yantra. So this is how it works. If you put it on your chest, you can say, you just call off the names, call off the mantras that reside in the yantra. Om Mandar Shakta Dinam Kurmai Nom Namtai Nom Priti Nom Shiras Mudrai Nom Shweta Dipai Nom Mani Mandapai Nom Kapa Rishai Nom Mani Vedikai Nom Ratna Singhasanai Nom Om Dharmai Nom Gyanai Nom Vairagyai Nom Ishwargyai Nom Adharmai Nom Gyanai Nom Avaragyai Nom Ishwargyai Nom Padmai Nom Namtai Nom Om Surya Mandalaya Dvadas Kalatmani Nom Sama Mandalaya Shoras Kalatmani Nom Bani Mandalaya Das Kalatmani Nom Om Sansatwai Nom Ram Rajasai Nom Tam Tamasai Nom Anatmani Nom Angantratmani Nom Pamparmatmani Nom Hring Gyanatmani Nom. Now I've got a yantra here. I can put that yantra any place I choose, because it's here. I can just take it out of my heart and put it on your chest, in your heart. And then I take the energy and I do pranpratishtha. I establish the life force within. On the yantra. And then I can take that energy and give it to anyone I choose. And I can take it back. I put it on a flower and I can give it to anyone else I choose to give it to. I can take it out of, I put it on a flower, I can put it in the fire. I can take it out of the fire, put it on a flower, put it back in my heart. I can take it and put it on my altar. I can take that energy, and now I find that energy, it's just a unique way of looking at the world. And then it becomes palpable, it becomes tangible, it becomes an energy that you can actually move. It's your energy. It's your relationship with divinity. And that's what the yantra will teach you how to do. You study the yantras, you study the mantras, you study the positions of the mantra on the yantra, and you study the position of the yantra on your body, and you study, you put it in your heart and move that energy. And then you get control of the energy. It's no longer a foreign energy, it's yours. And that's what we call sadhana. That's the spiritual discipline which trains us to perceive that energy, to manipulate that energy, to control that energy, so I'm not out of control. I stay in the center, no matter where I go. Just bring that energy with me. So here we have some protectors here. Om Mukundai Om Isanai Om Purandarai Om Brahmani Om Vaivaspatai Om Indravain Om Adara Shakti. Now we're bowing to the primal energy, the Adara Shakti, the infinite energy. Om Kurmaya Namo, and the tortoise which holds aloft the earth. Infinity and the earth. She was smooth dry in the ocean of consciousness, the ocean of purity. The milk ocean, which the gods and the demons were churning. Remember, they wanted to get the nectar of immortality. They went to Shirish Mudra. In the middle of the ocean of purity is an island of pure consciousness. Shweta on the island, there is a temple made of jewels. And in the courtyard of the temple made of jewels, there's a tree which gives anybody who sits under the tree the fulfillment of every desire they could ask for. Please take the journey with me. We're going to this ocean of infinite consciousness, and we're perceiving the earth is there in the ocean, and there's an island of purity. On the island of purity, there's a temple made of jewels, and then in the courtyard of the temple is the tree that gives the fulfillment of all desire. Underneath the tree, there's a paving, there's a platform that's filled with jewels. And on top of the platform, there's Ratna Singhasanai. There's a throne made out of gems and jewels. And all the wealth of the world is there because she sits on the throne. That's where we go to get darshan. Now, we have 4 petals of the lotus, which are the energies of unity. Om Dharmaya Namo, Jnanaya Namo, Vairagya Namo, Ishwaraya Namo. There's the ideal of perfection, and there's wisdom, and there's renunciation, and there is freedom from attachment. And then we have 4 petals which manifest in creation. There's a lack of ideals. There's a lack of wisdom. I do stupid things. There's a lot of attachment. And there are foolish things to do too. So, Om Dharmaya Namo, Jnanaya Namo, Vairagya Namo, Ishwaraya Namo, Adharmaya Namo, Jnanaya Namo, Vairagya Namo, Ishwaraya Namo, Padmaya Namo, Manantaya Namo. And there's the lotus of peace. And there's the infinity of all existence. Sang Satvaya Namo, Ram Rajasin Namo, Tam Tamasaya Namo, and there is Sattva Raja Tam Guna. The 3 gunas, the 3 qualities. There's truth, true being, and pure being, and truthful behavior. And Rajas is, you can call them, define them by many names. Sattva, Raja, Tama could be light and action and rest. It could be creation, preservation, transformation. It could be Uma. There are just too many. We call it in Sanskrit Kamkala. It means all 3s. There are a lot of 3s, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. There are just a lot of 3s. En Ring Kling, Mahakali, Ma Lakshmi, Ma Saraswati. Om. You can go on, and then there are the 3 in opposition. Angatmani namo, Angantratmani namo, Pamparamatmani namo, Ringyanatmani namo. In the center is the soul of wisdom. That's where we stay, in the center. If you act from the center, from the soul of wisdom, in every circumstance in life, then you can perceive this yantra wherever you go, whatever you do, carry it with you. And this is the Chandi Yantra. And this is an intricate part of our worship because we just keep moving the energy onto the yantra and then onto the flower. And then we put the yantra someplace else. Don't you fall on me. See, he's balanced. So that's how the yantra works. It's a tool in your worship, or in our worship. We use it as a tool, and it's a map. And it shows us, how do you take the journey? How, step by step. How do you find your ocean of pure consciousness? And when you get to that ocean of pure consciousness, where is your island of purity? And on that island of purity, where is your temple of jewels? And when you go in your temple of jewels and you see the courtyard of the temple and the tree that fulfills all desire, what else are you going to want? I mean, if you're sitting next to the throne where the goddess sits, you're in a pretty good place. That's why we sit here as much as we can and chant her mantras as loudly as we can, and we inhale them, and we exhale them, and we do pranayama. That's the control of breath, using the mantra as a mathematical formula through which we can control our breath and control our thoughts. And we have a mantra coming in. We use the Nirvana mantra, Om Aing Ring Kling Chamundar Bibiche. And we have a mantra going out, or 2 mantras in this case, as we did today. Sometimes we do 3 mantras, we do sometimes 5 mantras per breath. And we do different rhythms of pranayama according to the different goals that we have. So now we have a unity, again, that word, yoga. We have asana, we have pranayama, we have a mudra, we have a kriya. We are doing something, affirmative action. We are doing something to come closer. We're following our dream. We've got our map. This is our map. Well, and that's how we integrate mantra, yantra, into the tantra of our sadhana. The tantra is weaving it all together, making it holistic spirituality. It's not a spiritual practice. It's spiritual life. We only do the spiritual practices to remind us that we're here to lead a spiritual life. Sometimes we forget. Occasionally. So we do the practice every day to remind ourselves, hello, hello there, there's this island of purity sitting in your ocean of consciousness. Better go there first before you think about the rest of the things you're going to do today. And then once we have that center, we can interact without too much or too little, without self-conceit, without self-deprecation, without any ego at all. We just want to be the children of God. So that's a little bit about Yantra. Do you have any questions?
Swamiji, is there a three-dimensional aspect to this?
Yes, me. Absolutely. Once you put on the yantra, you are the three-dimensional, walking, talking, live representative of that yantra. There is no geometrical form like a Melu yantra or any specific aspect of worship in that way. We use flat yantra. You put it on your body, you put it on your altar, you put it in your hawakun, you can put it on the wall, you can put it on your friends, you put it on your wife, you give it to your... you really want to make love. Give it to the people you love most. Just look at them and draw the yantra on their body. And make them the altar of your worship. The recipient of the greatest love that you can give. And we call that paying attention. You know, when you learn something, I'll bet you all of you were students and your teachers all said, pay attention to this. Because the only way you learn is by paying attention. When you learn something, you pay attention. When you respect someone, you pay even more attention. When you love someone, you pay even more attention. When you worship someone, you pay even more attention. Meditation is the cultivation of the practice of paying attention. And pretty soon, everything you do is part of through meditation practice. You don't have to do special practices to meditate. All you got to do is fall off. So if you want to use this yantra or this practice, just give it to the person you love the most and pay attention. Worship them. Idolize them. In the most idyllic sense, they are the manifestation of the purity of love to you. Give them the yantra, not just hand them a thing, but draw it on their body and put yourself in the center. You've all seen the picture of Hanuman opening up his heart to show Ram and Sita are inside. Look inside your own heart and see who's there. Put the yantra there because every deity sits on the yantra. And then you have the confluence of yantra, mantra, and tantra. They all come together. There's a unity, there's a yoga. Actually, chitta vritti nirod iti yoga. The cessation, the prohibition of all changes and modifications of consciousness is what we call union. When your mind stops changing, that's called yoga. That's called meditation. That's called being in love. And that's what we're practicing, how to be lovers. We're trying to learn, how do you love? How do you respect? How do you worship? How do you learn? All through our education, people were saying, you got to pay attention, but nobody told us how until we came to the temple. And then in the temple they said, okay, you got to sit still. Every movement of your body is a reflection of the movement of your mind. So in order to make your mind sit still, first you got to make your body sit still. And in order to make your body sit still, you got to practice some yoga. At least enough so you can sit still. That's the purpose of yoga. It's not to become a pretzel, Mr. Pretzel. Well, he's a really nice pretzel. He really does nice pretzel positions. But the purpose of yoga is to achieve the culmination of union. With everything you want to unite. With your partner, with your mate, with your work, with your play, with your whatever you're doing, pay attention. If it's worth doing, it's worth paying attention to. Because every time you make a mistake, it's because of a lapse of attention. If we were paying attention all the time, we wouldn't make mistakes. We do it right the first time. Dream on. Well, theoretically, it's possible. These practices will help to train us to focus that attention to the exclusion of delusion, so that we learn how to learn. We learn how to love, we learn how to respect, and we learn how to worship and how to unite with the goals that we have chosen. In every way, we achieve siddhi, success. We achieve, there are two terms that really grabbed me when I started learning Sanskrit. One was sankalpa. What's your goal? How do you define your purpose? What are you going to do to achieve it? Sankalpa. And the other was sadhu. Sadhu means efficient. Someone who's efficient is a sadhu. Of course, in modern language, it's become something different. It means a little bit of a vagabond and a rogue and a beggar and a cross between. But in Sanskrit, the word sadhu means someone who's efficient. And if you're efficient and you know your goal and you know your path and you know where you're going, siddhi, the attainment of perfection, is not far away. We can see it looming on the horizon as we approach. We can see the changes that go into our lives as we become the person that we like. the person I want to become, the person I respect. We become our own best friend. And that's the process of our sadhana. That's our spiritual discipline. To cultivate that friendship with the best me I could possibly become. The yantra is one of the tools through which we do that. So I really respect that you are studying yantras and mantras. And I hope you understand what is the tantra that unites the two. The weave together, the synthesis of all your knowledge that brought you here today is your tantra. The synthesis of everything you learned that brought you to where you are right now. This moment is your tantra. Now, from this perception, from this position, where do we want to go from here? That's the question each of us will answer for ourselves. But it's a choice that we're all given. It's a choice that we're all invested with, that we get to make that determination. We are empowered by our teachers, by our gurus, by our well-wishers, our friends, by the circumstances of life. Everything in your collection that brought you to this moment is empowering you to decide what's going to be in the next moment. What is your ideal of perfection? And as soon as you have that determination, if you have that definition, the rest is academic. You just draw the map. Make a yantra. Draw the roadmap and step by step. We have 9 forms of Durga. There's one Vidhi in our puja. Actually, it's these flowers back here. Pratamam Shila Putpicha. The first is the goddess of inspiration. Dvitiyam Brahmachariti. And the second is the goddess of knowledge. You get an inspiration, you start studying. You got to learn about what turns you on. Tritiyam Chandagantete. The third is the delight of practice. Hey, it's really fun to start practicing my knowledge. I learned something, I better use it. Kushmanditi Chaturthakam. She actually literally means making the egg hot. She boils the eggs. That actually, she's the goddess of purification. Most of you boil your eggs before you eat them. You don't eat them right. Well, we don't eat eggs here, but anyway. I'm sure some of you do. Yeah. The fifth is the goddess who nurtures divinity, and the sixth is she who overcomes all duality. She is ever pure. Seventh is the goddess who overcomes the darkness of duality, and eighth is the goddess of great radiant light. Navamam Siddhi Dhatricha. The ninth is the grantor of perfection. Navadurga Prakirtita. These are the 9 girls, the 9 ladies of our lives. You get an inspiration, you start learning. You take your knowledge, you start practicing. You refine the practice until you get good at it. In fact, you get so good at it, you become professional. You become a doctor, a teacher, a professor, good student. And then you get so into the action that there ceases to be duality in what you're doing. You overcome the darkness of egotism, and you become one with the great radiant light. And then she grants perfection. And those are 9 forms of the goddess Durga. I saw Durga Yantra here, and there are many. There's a yantra for each of the 9 forms of Durga. Every goddess has a yantra. I'll bet you all of you have yantras too. Just define your goals and make your map. And that will be your yantra. The yantra of you. And pretty soon you'll be able to chart it and plot it and put it on a piece of paper or put it on a beautiful canvas. put it on an altar. And you can worship the best you that you could possibly become. You become the worshiper and the worshipped. Brahma eva Brahma bhavanti. The knower of the Supreme becomes the Supreme. And that's kind of how we define our goal. The journey that we take with our yantra. Do you have any questions? I'm sure there might be something. No. Very good. I've confused you all completely. Success!
Okay, so you were saying like a personal yantra?
Yes.
So did you actually make one for yourself?
Absolutely. I made one for myself until my yantra became a replica of her yantra. And then, step by step, that became my yantra. And now, that's my yantra. And I know it intimately. And I know it well. And I know the yantras. I know every angle. I know every line. I know every curve. I know it's my yantra. But it wasn't always my yantra. I had many other disciplines before she became the sole exclusive discipline. And now she's the sole exclusive discipline. When you go through your goals and you try to plot out where you're going in life, and you try to define what your values are, what's important to you, what do you want to accomplish in the next 1 to 3 years, and 3 to 5 years, and 5 to 10 years, and what do you want to be when you grow up? When you ask yourselves that question, you're going to come up with your own yantra. And it will change. And maybe it'll become in alignment and attunement or at one-ment with someone else's yantra. Like Shiva's yantra, or Chandi's yantra, or Lakshmi's yantra. Maybe it'll remain your own. It's your choice. It's your life. Yes?
So Swamiji, we've been studying about the Divine Mother.
Okay.
And there's a very powerful time of year coming up in Navratri.
It's here.
Yes. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because our class is not familiar with Navratri, and I was going to talk about that in the class. I'd like to
You can do Navaratri anytime you want. You can, Navaratri means 9 nights. And actually it means 9 days and 9 nights. Because we're 24/7 people. We're not middle way people. We're all the way. We're not looking for the middle road or to put everything in down. We want to go all the way. So 9 days and 9 nights. And what that means to us is the world stops. Stop the world, I want to get off. There is no reality other than what's going on in this temple right now. I'm just dissolving all attachment to everything that's outside the walls of this temple for the next 9 days and 9 nights. And I have nothing more important to do than to renew my vows of worship. To renew my goals. To define what do I want creation to look like when I come out from this creation into the next creation. What will the next creation? I'm giving her everything. And I'm going to stay here and worship for 9 days. And at the end of 9 days, she may say, stay a little longer. Or she may say, okay, time's up. Go out and you got to pay the grocer. You got to put gas in the car, and you got to do something else. She may, or she may not. Everything we get in the next creation is her prasad. It's the offering, the consecrated offering that we've given to her. We gave her all the things that are important to us. And for 9 days, all we have to do is worship. So we worship in the early morning, we worship in the mid-morning, we worship in the midday, and we worship in the afternoon, we'll worship in the evening, we'll probably worship in the night too. It just goes around. for 9 days. There's nothing more important for me to do. And then, if she gives us a new creation, then everything we get is a gift from God. It's all prasad. And if she doesn't give us a new creation, that's nice too. We did it for 1,000 days, 3 years. In fact, we took the 9 days and we turned it into 3 years. Sahasra Chandi. We took the Sahasra Chandi and we did that 7 times. We did that 21 years. Just staying in temples. Doing the Chandi Pat and the worship. Because it says in the Chandi Patam Divaratra Kuriya Deva Nishamshaya. If you do the Chandi in the day and in the night, you become a god or a goddess without a doubt. Well, that's what we want to do. In fact, I can't think of anything else I'd rather do. I mean, all of it gets old quickly. I just would rather stay in the temple and sing to God. And give her all my attention. And give her all my love. And give her my sincerity. And ask from her to give me greater devotion so I can pay more attention. So I can stay longer. It works that way. You get the satsang, you come into contact with people who are doing spiritual things, and you have this community of truth. Satsang. And in the community of truth, there's no duplicity, there's no subterfuge, there's nothing to worry about. You don't have to keep your guard up. What a privilege. To be unguarded, totally vulnerable, totally exposed. Well, there's nothing I could show you haven't seen before. Well, I'll just try to share with you the best things that I've got to offer. Oh, we took the 9 days, and we made it into 100 days, and we made it into 1,000 days, and we did 1,000 days many times. We've done it 7 times already. And in various places around the world, but we did 2 of them here. We did 2 in Martinez. We did one in Rishikesh. We did one in Balkrishna. We did one in Chakeshwar. We've been around. We're going back next week. Just at the end of Navaratri, we're going to do 9 days again. After these 9 days, we're going to do 9 days in Uttarkashi. We're going to do 9 days in Trambakeshwar, in Shahpur, right next to Nashik, near Mumbai, in that area. And then we're going to teach at the IIM, the Institute of Management in Bangalore. There are many people that are interested in these kinds of disciplines, that we can train ourselves to pay attention. And if you do worship every day, you train yourself to pay attention. And if you do it for 9 days in a row, there's an exponential gain in your attentiveness. Because the longer you sit, the longer you breathe, the stronger, the more intense it becomes, the greater is the sincerity, the greater is the blessing. And that blessing is what elevates us, so that this becomes a way of life, rather than a philosophy. It's not a ritual. It's not a ceremony. It's what we do. It's what I'd rather do. I mean, given all the options that I had, it's what I chose to do. I'm not here because anyone forced me. I thought being a priest would be the highest occupation that I could possibly aspire to. And that's after having tried many things. So being a priest of the gods, being in love with Mother, being a professional lover, that was pretty cool. That was a pretty nice thing to aspire to. I liked it. I mean, of all places I could think to be, being on a mountaintop, hanging out with the Divine Mother and a bunch of sadhus, all who are efficient people looking to increase the efficiency of every action that they perform, that's a pretty good association for me. I kind of like the choices I made. Thank you. Thank you for being a part of it. So that's what 9 days, 9 nights Navaratri is about. Dissolve your attachment to everything outside your temple. Move into your temple. Organize your material life so that you don't have to pay attention to it. And then go deeper and deeper into the sincerity of your spiritual life. Feel it. Grok it. Enjoy it. Breathe it. Inhale it. Exhale it. Contemplate its meaning. Contemplate how could I fit into this yantra? Where does this yantra fit into my life? How do I fit into the yantra? How can I make an alignment between my yantra and her yantra? And as we do that, I've been doing it for a long time now. As we do it more and more, it becomes more and more our reality. There becomes an intimacy. I mean, whenever you get together with anything else, two of everything start to influence each other. Husband and wife, take on the same values, they take on the same teacher and student, the wind and the water. The wind blows on the water and the water has movement and the wind gets cool. Every time two of anything get together, there's this mutual conductibility. They're all conducted to each other's stronger aspects. So be very discriminating about with whom you associate. Because you're going to become like your associates. And if you can't find them out there, the people you want to hang out with, come inside. Come inside the temple and put a yantra there. And put your roadmap next to her roadmap. And see, how do you make her influence stronger in your life? That's how the yantra works. That's what the puja does. Pu means punya, the greatest merit. Ja means jata, to give birth. The actions which give birth to the highest merit is puja. That's what we call worship. So worship is the action that gives you the privilege to be where you want to be. To sit in the presence of God. That's a pretty good privilege. I mean, there are so many things that'll knock on the door and say, hey, anyone home? Come and pay attention to me. Sorry, no phone. No, sorry, I can't get the door. I'm not moving my knees until I complete what I said I was going to do. Of course, maybe I can't control my mind, but at least I can control my knees. I mean, my mind will go 1,000,000 miles a minute and roam around the world, but I don't have to go running after it. At least I can control my knees, and if I control my knees, well, maybe pretty soon the mind will sit still too. And I'll put my map in alignment, in attunement, at one-ment, in unity and harmony with her map. And I guess that's called an I map. Hanging out with the wrong people. Can't help but creep in. Technology runs everywhere. This is a technology which teaches us how do we put our map in our sankalpa, in harmony with her sankalpa. Our determination, our goals, our objectives, our purposes, how do we create a harmony? You've got 9 days, actually starting on Monday, but we started yesterday. And we'll go a little far longer too. Because it doesn't have to be exactly 9 days, it's a minimum of 9 days. You never, I was showing you how to count. I think we got to 118 or something like that. But anyway, 108 is the minimum. Don't ever give the minimum. Give a little extra. There's no harm in giving a little more. A little more of yourself, a little more devotion, a little more sincerity, a little more of everything you can give, everything that's worth offering. Offer a little more. So you don't have to do just 9 days. But do at least 9 days. And you can do it 4 times a year, winter, spring, summer, and fall. All you got to do is call. The old hippies never die. They don't. It's true. There's Magh, Chaitra, Ashar, and Ashwin. This is Ashwin. This is the fall, Navaratri. And we do it winter, spring, summer, and fall. And all we do is keep calling. And we keep calling, and we do it anytime. You can start on the first day of each fortnight, or you can start on the 6th day of each fortnight. And if you start on the 6th, you end on Purnima or Amavasya. You start on the first day, you end on Navami. And on the 9th day, you do at least 9 days, and maybe a little more. And maybe it'll grow. And maybe as you do more and more 9 days in succession, you'll say, gee, I can organize my life a little differently so I don't have to go outside so much. Maybe I'll go to Costco and stock up. I'll put enough food there to last me the month. And maybe I'll stay here for... I'll prepay the expenses. I'll do something. I'll organize my life. I'll reduce my cost of living so I can stay here a little longer. Just your values change as we choose to be with God. Our goals, our desires, what we want when we sit under that tree that gives you the fulfillment of all desires, pretty soon, Mom, I have only one desire. I want to stay here. That's my desire. Oh, excuse me. So I gave my head to college. And she holds it in her hand. I was a little younger there. There is a resemblance, and that's the great ego that she cuts down and she puts it in her hand, and as long as he's there in her hand, well, it's nice to be here. Ooh, when she lets go, I got stuff to deal with. I've got karma. As long as she keeps that ego in her hand, as long as he stays there, I'm where I want to be. Well, I've got just the right amount to be where I want to be. I don't need more of anything. I just need her blessing so I can stay here a little longer. Got a funny story to tell you. I want to do my first Satsandi, 108 days of reciting Chandi without going outside. And I needed a temple, I needed a supply line, I needed finances, and I needed a visa because I was in India. And there was a time where I only got 6-month visas at a time. Now I'm a citizen. But before I was a student, and then I'm an employee. And then, so anyway, I got the temple and I ran out of money. And I got the money, I couldn't find a temple. And then I got the temple and the money, and I didn't have any supplies. And I got the supplies, and I lost my visa. And I was going round and round and round saying, how am I going to make this work? And one day I just sat down and started chanting. I said, I'm not moving. I'm ready to do this. I want it badly enough, come whatever comes. I want to do this. And I had set up the temple. There was a helper that was helping me to do my worship. He would bring me flowers in the morning, and he would shine my utensils, and he'd bring me some fruits in the evening, and that was my food. And he would go outside the temple, and he put a padlock on the temple, and he locked me in, and he threw the key through the window. And I put the key right here. And I would sit there and chant the entire day, knowing no one had authority to interrupt me. I'm not getting up for anything. Well, as history has it, I was chanting in the temple, and I kept the key with me. In the evening when I was done with the last mantra, I would throw the key out the window. He would pick it up, open the padlock, bring me my dinner, and we would sing and dance until we went to sleep. One day a policeman came, said, "There's a foreigner chanting in this temple. Does he have a visa?" The boy was standing outside. He said, "I don't know anything about what is a visa. I don't know what a passport is. I'm a village boy. I've never been outside the village." He said, "No, he's got to have a passport. Tell him to come outside and show me his passport." The boy said, he's not going to open up the gate. He's not going to give me the key until he finishes the last mantra. And he doesn't finish the last mantra until after the last bus leaves our village. So if you want to be on that bus, you're not going to see his passport. So a week went by, and the constable came back with an inspector in a jeep. And they waited until the last mantra. And they said, "We need to see the passport." And I sang small mantras. And they went away. Another week went by, and the superintendent of our district came. So the boy was talking outside the window to the superintendent, saying he's not going to open up the door, and he's got the only key, and I have no capacity to unlock the door. So the superintendent, I could tell that it was a superintendent of police, and he had a constable, and he had the inspector, and he had a jeep, and he had a driver, and they had come to see my passport. So I finished the last mantra. I threw the key. They opened up the gate. The superintendent of police walked into the temple, and by that time I had a kerosene hurricane lantern, and I had lit the lantern. The inspector, the superintendent looked over at the lantern, he looked at me, and then he picked up the lantern and he looked at the goddess Kali holding my head. And then he took the lantern and he looked at me again, and he looked at Kali in my picture. And he said, "This guy knows something. Leave him alone." And turned around and left. And I got to finish my 100. In fact, I never had a problem for peace in that district ever. So, very interesting. If you can put your ego there, if you can put yourself in Kali's hands, if you can make that place the place you want to sit, you've got just the right amount. You don't have too much, you don't have too little. You've got just the amount that you need. So that's a little about Navaratri. You can do it anytime. You should do it all the time. I highly recommend it. In fact, we're going off now to do it tomorrow. We're going to start, tomorrow is Mahaloya. Mahaloya actually means great dissolution. Mahaloya. Huh? Yeah. Mahaloya. It's the great dissolution. We're dissolving everything outside the temple. And the way we celebrate Mahaloya is to turn to all of our ancestors, everyone who's left. And we say, "Do you know what? I'm in a really good place. I'm with good people, doing good things. And any part that you played in bringing me to this place, I appreciate and respect. And I want to say thank you. And I want to give an offering to you because I know you prepared a lot of my karma. I was sitting up in heaven saying, which house should I choose to take birth in? And I guess my family had all the ingredients to influence me to come here. Because this is where I ended up. And I'm in a good place with good people doing good things. And I want to say thank you to the whole lineage, all the relatives, as far back as I can go. And then there's an heirs and omissions clause. If any are there that I forgot, I'm going to make an offering to you too, because I respect you so highly. Look where I got to, because of your influence in my life. You helped prepare the path for me to come here. Thank you. I can't think of a greater offering that you could have made to my life than to put me in contact with people like these. People like yourselves in a temple like this. I mean, when I go outside the temple, I think the rest of the world is in black and white. This is living color. So, tomorrow we're going to perform the Mahalaya Parvan Shraddha. And the Shraddha is a memorial ceremony in respect of all of our ancestors. We're going to say to all of them, whatever influences you put towards our being here, we want to say thank you. Look where we are! Thank you! We're in a good place with good people doing good things, and I like me. Does it get any better than this? Is this as good as it gets? So you guys did your job well. Namaste. Thank you. So tomorrow we're going to make a memorial ceremony, and we're going to read maybe a couple thousand names of people that we respect from all of our friends and relations. We're going to read all of the influences that came into their lives that brought us all to the temple, to be closer to God, to be closer to each other, to know ourselves, to become the people that we are. Oh, that's how we're going to start the great dissolution of all else outside the temple. The last official act we do as beings of the world is say, thank you. Thank you, world, and thank you, everybody who had anything to do with bringing me to where I'm sitting right now. Namaste. And we'll offer them the way we treat gods and goddesses. We'll offer them milk and yogurt and ghee and honey and sugar and sweets and food. And we'll make a party to celebrate our love for all the people that came into our lives and influenced us in such a nice way. I want to say thank you to all of you for giving me the privilege just to spend a little bit of time with you all. Namaste. You know, the left hand is Shakti and the right hand is Shiva, and with all the energy of my conscious being, I bow to the divinity which will reflect me from my heart. Namaste.